You've probably seen 100 gardening hack videos by now, and let's be honest, most of them repeat the same tired tricks. But what if I told you there are real, little-known methods that gardeners quietly swear by? Things that actually make a visible difference in your soil, your plants, and even how you feel in your garden. These aren't your regular, put eggshells here, banana peels there, kind of hacks. These are the ones you rarely hear about, yet they can completely change how you grow, and they cost almost nothing to try. Welcome to Green Family, the home of simple, honest gardening made possible on any budget. If you're new here, I'm glad you found us. Around here, we don't just grow plants. We grow knowledge, confidence, and a real connection with nature. And if you've been part of this family for a while, you already know we keep things practical, creative, and real. Before we get into it, make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications, because each week, we share clever gardening ideas that most people don't even know exist. All right, let's dive into these 8 viral gardening hacks that you'll wish you discovered sooner, because after today, your garden might never feel the same again. All right, let's get right into it, because once you see how simple these are, you'll start looking at your garden in a whole new way. Let's begin with the first one. Hack 1. The charcoal layer secret. Goodbye root rot. Here's something very few gardeners talk about, yet it can completely change how your plants grow, especially if you love potted plants. Before you fill a pot with soil, add a thin layer of crushed charcoal at the bottom, not the black ash from burnt wood, but small pieces of clean charcoal, like the ones used in water filters or lump barbecue charcoal, nothing chemical or shiny. Now, here's why this works like magic. Charcoal acts like a sponge for moisture and toxins. It absorbs excess water when the soil gets too wet, then slowly releases it when things start drying out. It also traps harmful bacteria and keeps your roots breathing freely. If you've ever dealt with yellowing leaves, soggy roots, or that sour smell that says your soil's gone bad, this trick quietly fixes all that. It's especially great for indoor plants or anywhere drainage is a challenge. What I love about this hack is that it doesn't cost a dime if you reuse old charcoal. It's one of those small, smart details that keeps your plants healthier without needing fancy pots or expensive soil mixes. So next time you're repotting, slip in that charcoal layer first. Your roots will thank you for it later. Hack 2. Aloe vera rooting gel, nature's growth booster. You know how everyone says plants respond to care and attention? Well, aloe vera takes that idea to another level. Hidden inside those thick green leaves is one of the best natural growth stimulants you'll ever find. Here's how it works. Instead of buying commercial rooting hormones, you can blend a little aloe vera gel with water, just enough to make it smooth, and dip your cuttings into it before planting. Aloe contains natural enzymes, vitamins, and antibacterial compounds that protect the stem and encourage healthy root formation faster than most store-bought options. I first tried this with a dying rose cutting that I didn't have much hope for, and to my surprise, it rooted faster and looked stronger than the ones I treated with powder. From that moment, aloe became my quiet little secret in plant propagation. If you already have an aloe plant at home, that's all you need. No chemicals, no cost, just nature helping nature. Try it once, and you'll see why I never throw out my aloe leaves anymore. Hack 3. The clay pot cooler, natural air conditioning for your plants. This idea is borrowed from an ancient cooling method, simple, brilliant, and still used in some of the hottest parts of the world. All you need are 2 clay pots, one slightly smaller than the other. Place the smaller pot inside the larger one. Fill the space between them with moist sand, and then cover the top loosely with a damp cloth or a lid. Now, put your plant inside that smaller pot, or even store your harvested vegetables in it. As the water from the sand slowly evaporates, it cools down everything inside, just like a natural refrigerator. It keeps your soil moist for longer, reduces heat stress, and helps delicate plants like lettuce or herbs thrive even when the temperature climbs. What's amazing is that this method doesn't need electricity or fancy equipment, just a bit of thought and a couple of old clay pots. It's the kind of quiet wisdom our grandparents would have used, and it still works like magic today. So if you live somewhere hot or dry, give your plants this little clay air conditioner. They'll reward you with fresh, happy growth, even on the toughest days. Hack 4. Reuse tea leaves as soil refreshers, the right way. Most people just throw used tea leaves straight into the soil and call it compost. But here's the truth, that's not how you get the best out of them. If you take a few minutes to rinse, dry, and lightly crush those used leaves before adding them to your garden, you unlock their full potential. Here's why this matters. Dried tea leaves act like tiny sponges. They help loosen up compacted soil, improve drainage, and slowly release nutrients like nitrogen and potassium. The gentle caffeine boost can even wake up sluggish roots. And perhaps the best part, they attract earthworms, those quiet little gardeners that keep your soil alive and breathing. Just sprinkle the crushed, dry leaves around your plants or mix them lightly into the top layer of soil. You can even blend them with a bit of compost for a richer mix. It's one of those humble habits that doesn't look like much, but over time, it turns dull, tired soil into something alive. Dark, soft, and full of life. So the next time you finish a cup of tea, think twice before you throw those leaves away. You might just be holding a handful of quiet power your plants have been waiting for. Hack 5. The potato propagation chamber. Sprouting cuttings the smart way. This one sounds odd at first, but stay with me. It works beautifully. When you're propagating a cutting, say from a rose, hibiscus, or even a tomato plant, instead of sticking it straight into the soil, try inserting it into a fresh, raw potato first. Here's what happens. The potato holds just the right amount of moisture, protecting your cutting from drying out. It's also full of starch and nutrients that feed the new roots as they begin to form. In other words, it becomes a tiny greenhouse and food supply rolled into one. Simply make a small hole in the potato, place your cutting gently inside, and then plant the whole thing in soil with just the top of the stem exposed. Keep it lightly watered and in a shaded spot for the first few days. You'll notice stronger roots and faster growth, because that little potato is doing double duty, nurturing your plant from the inside out. It's such a simple hack, but it can turn a weak cutting into a thriving new plant. And that's what I love most about gardening. How something so ordinary can quietly work wonders when you give it a chance. Hack 6. Vinegar spray for hard water spots on leaves. If you water your plants with hard tap water, over time, minerals like calcium and magnesium start to build up on the leaves. They leave behind a thin, chalky residue that blocks sunlight and dulls your plant's natural shine. Here's the trick. Mix a few drops of white vinegar into a spray bottle of water, about 1 teaspoon to a liter, and lightly mist your plant's leaves. After a minute, gently wipe them with a soft cloth or paper towel. The mild acidity in vinegar dissolves those stubborn mineral deposits without harming the plant, leaving the leaves looking clean, healthy, and able to breathe again. I first tried this on a fiddle leaf fig that looked tired and gray, even though it was perfectly healthy. A quick wipe down with this solution, and suddenly it looked like it had come back to life, glossy, green, and proud again. It's such a small detail, but it makes a world of difference, especially for indoor plants that can't rely on rain to wash them clean. Sometimes, caring for plants is really about noticing the little things that help them shine again. Hack 7. DIY biochar from kitchen scraps. Long-term soil health hack. Most gardeners throw out their kitchen scraps, but what if I told you some of those scraps could become one of the most powerful soil improvers on Earth? It's called biochar, and it's not as complicated as it sounds. Here's what you do. Take old fruit peels, corn cobs, stems, or even nutshells, and char them over low heat until they turn black, but not to ash. You can do this in a small tin or an old metal pot outdoors. Once cooled, crush the pieces into small bits and mix them into your garden soil or compost. Now here's the amazing part. Biochar acts like a long-term storage bank for nutrients and microbes. It holds onto moisture, improves air circulation underground, and keeps beneficial organisms alive much longer. Unlike compost that breaks down in months, biochar stays active for years, continually enriching your soil. Farmers centuries ago used this same method to turn poor, lifeless ground into fertile black earth, and modern science has only confirmed how effective it truly is. It's a bit of effort the first time, but once you see how your soil transforms, darker, looser, and full of energy, you'll understand why this ancient trick deserves a place in every modern garden. Hack 8. The shadow swap method. Move plants, don't lose them. Every garden has its little microclimates, those hidden corners where light hits differently, or where a breeze dries the soil faster than expected. Most gardeners overlook this, and their plants quietly suffer because of it. The shadow swap method is all about learning to read your garden's light and adjusting your plants without spending a dime. Here's how it works. When the seasons change and the sun shifts, take a moment to notice which areas of your garden get more or less sunlight than before. Then, simply rotate or move your potted plants to match what they love best. Shade lovers under taller plants, sun seekers near reflective walls or lighter surfaces. You can even use something as simple as a mirror, whiteboard, or wall to bounce sunlight into dim corners. giving your shade-loving plants just enough extra light to thrive without burning them. This simple observation and adjustment method can turn struggling plants around almost overnight. It's not about working harder. It's about understanding your garden's rhythm and helping each plant find its comfort zone. Because every garden, just like every person, has its quiet spots where it truly comes alive. You just need to know where to look. When you think about it, gardening isn't really about plants. It's about patience, about learning to see the small miracles that happen when you care for something a little every day. These 8 hacks, they're not just tricks. They're small reminders that even the simplest changes can breathe new life into what's already in your hands. And that's what we do here on Green Family. We remind ourselves that growth doesn't always need more money or more space. Sometimes it just needs a new way of seeing. So if you found even one thing today that made you pause, smile, or think differently about your garden, then stay a while. Subscribe, be part of this family. Because we're not just growing plants here, we're growing people who love the earth and everything it gives back. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, keep your hands dirty, your heart open, and your garden alive.